Okay, good afternoon, all you very lovely people uh, who are all looking so bright and wonderful in this afternoon. I feel rather, like a cat dragged out of bed or something, but I will try and do my best. So good afternoon and welcome to this roundtable of Beyond Boundaries. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Shobha Vishwanath, the co-founder and the publishing director of Curry Details. Um, when Curry Details collaborated with People's Archive of Rural India, uh, and the idea was to come up with stories that were targeted at middle graders. So we came up with 5 chapter books for middle graders, and all these stories were based on real life reports. And these stories were remarkable because these were the kinds of stories that one normally did not read. These were stories of children and adults in rural India, people who led their lives through a whole trail of adversities, and there was hope and success and sometimes despair told through all these stories. And when we collaborated with Pari, with People's Archive of Rural India on this project, our intent was rather straightforward. What we wanted to do was bring to kids who were pretty much reading similar kinds or same kinds of stories in same kinds of genres, something different, something that was right at their backyard, very off. But when the books did come out, we were caught by surprise in the manner in which the books were received. It was humbling, and it was surprising, and it was also to some extent a little unexpected. The veteran and award-winning journalist and founder of Pari, Mr. P. Sainath, he points out, and I'll quote him on this. He says that a whole generation of Indian children are growing up as foreigners in their own country. It's not just urban children who are isolated from larger realities. Rural children themselves are more exposed to urban realities than to their own countryside. And this, we discovered, was very true, actually, not just of children. In our discovering and bringing out the Pari stories, there was so much learning happening to us as adults within the publishing house. And when the books kind of got done or were commissioned, we did approach this with a lot of trepidation. Far cry from what our children were currently reading. I mean, how could we compete, or how could we even compete for their attention? Forget about their wanting to pick up the story and read when they were being fed on a fare of Wimpy Kids and Percy Jacksons. We launched the Pari series, the 5 books, on October 31st, 2020. Right in the thick of the pandemic. This whole thing was birthed during that time. And we are not even 5 months from the date of the launch, and we are all poised for a second print run. And this is true not with just 1 or 2 books in the series. This is true with all the 5 books. And this is what I was saying was unexpected, surprising, and humbling for us. And I want to share with you today, before we invite the others in the roundtable to speak, and even the authors to speak, what our learning in these 5 months was. That the books were so well received, both by the media, by the schools that bought them, by the children themselves, by educators, and even just adults. I remember sending them to my friend, and her 80-year-old mother read the books first, and she said, "Are there any more books in the series?" So the reception that the books got were phenomenal. And the fact that the books have to go into print within 5 months made us realize that these were the things that the books sort of brought out. One was that, I found that children as well as adults are probably more open than we give them credit for. We kind of assume that the kids won't. That's not true. We kind of assume that with Netflix and Amazon Prime, vying for the adults' attention, that they would not like stories such as this. But this was untrue. The second thing was the schools. We launched the books during the time of the pandemic, and the schools were shut. And teachers and school heads and everybody was struggling with this online process of transmitting education. And despite that, they were ready to embrace these stories because they wanted not just enriching and empowering stories, but stories that were also different, stories that were from their own backyard. And this was really wonderful for us to hear. And then we found that the shorts difficult to sell is still very much a part of everybody's interest and everybody's taste, because one of the books, No Ticket Will Travel by Subuhi, which is based on migrants, has done remarkably well as well. So we thought, well, the short story is still not dead. So I hope you can see. The other learning that we had was about the scope of these books. The scope of each of these books was far greater than what one perceived at face value. And I'll come to that later. See, while all these stories were based on real people, what makes them stand out is that they open up a whole world for the readers, becoming great interdisciplinary subjects. So the story about a woman farmer is also a story about a single mother. The story about two youngsters living with disabilities is also a story about athletes. More importantly, and this is what sets these books apart, is the books in the series, they humanize textbook concepts and put a face to statistics of migrant workers, people living below the poverty line, young people with disabilities, children affected with HIV, and the dreams and aspirations of people who are forced to move constantly, which is the story of the migrant. And we also discovered that these books showed all of us a way that allowed a possibility to share, to show, and to expand the horizons of learning, both for the student as well as the teacher. A way that allows them to move beyond boundaries, the boundaries of geographies, culture, classrooms, curriculum, textbooks, and even timetables. So today we are all gathered here at this round table, which looks rather rectangular to me. That's the, what do you call, that's the pitfall of virtual round tables. But here we are. And I'm glad to invite you on this journey with us beyond boundaries. So with me are two of my editors, and whoever I name, call out, just give a hi or a wave, is Daya and Deepti, the editors at Karedi. Our four authors of the Pari series, Aparna Karthikeyan, who has written No Nonsense Nandini, Vishakha George, author of House of Uncommons, Subuhi Jivani, author of No Ticket Will Travel, and Preeti David, author of Coming Home. Welcome all of you. Also with us is a drama teacher, Mr. from the Yellow Train School in Coimbatore. And you will find the reason for us being a part of this roundtable much later during the course of this. And with us is Preethika Venkatkrishnan, who heads Karadi Path's Product and Training Division, and C.P. Vishwanath, the co-founder and CEO of Karadi Tales. And with all 9, or was it 10 of us, we complete the round table. Now, this webinar, just to let you know, will be broken up into 2 parts. The first part, I'm going to be having a conversation with the authors who have been a part of the Pari series, and which will be followed by a Q&A from you, the audience. So the questions that follow the first part will be directed at the authors. Even the publisher, well, we are also happy to take questions, but I think you will have more questions for the authors than for us. And then the second part will give you a little glimpse into the possibilities of going beyond boundaries through the example of a small lesson plan that we have devised and or that we have created. And the second part will be moderated or taken up by, presented by Daya. So if all of you have got all your headphones on and your videos are on, but your mics are on mute, we'll get started. I'd just like to say hi to Aparna Karthikeyan. Aparna has recently, during the pandemic, moved from Bombay to Chennai, Mumbai to Chennai. And Aparna is an author, a storyteller, an independent journalist, and volunteers for PARI, for People's Archive of Rural India. Her articles have been published in several newspapers and magazines, and she has recently moved to Chennai from Bombay, like I said, with her husband, her daughter, and dogs. We don't know how many dogs, Aparna.
2 currently, Shobha.
2 is welcome. And for the Pari series, Aparna has authored No Nonsense Nandini. I love the story. In the story, what Aparna does is she takes the really, really inspirational life of a woman farmer who's called Chandra, and she fictionalizes it a little bit. And through the story, she celebrates Chandra's unrelenting resolve. Now, Chandra lives in the Shivagange district. She is a farmer there and a retailer, a widow and a mother of 2 children, or was it 3, Aparna? 2, right? 2 children.
Yeah.
So, Aparna, welcome here to the round table. We are so, so happy to have you. And I know you moved to Chennai and I've still not met you, but that too will happen. Yeah. So, Aparna, of all the stories that you have covered as a journalist and as a volunteer at Pari, why did you choose Chandra's story in particular to tell as a woman farmer? I'm sure you must have encountered other women farmers as well, right?
Right. So I think a little bit of, Chandra herself was the reason I think I picked her story. She asked me one very interesting, important question, which felt like a slap. She basically asked me, where are the chairs for the people who grow your food? And that question makes you sit up, right? I mean, it's really the most fundamental of questions. She said it in this context. She said she goes to an office or she goes to a bank and she asks for a loan, or she just goes there for, some work, and they tell her to go stand in a corner, not even sit, right? So that tells you a little bit about what society looks on, if she and people like her stop doing their job, we can speak as much as we want. We won't have much to eat, right? I mean, there's just so much that one can it's just so fundamental that, they are keeping us alive in every sense of the word. And, the kind of importance that is given to them is just like, they don't make front page news unless, it is a 100-day protest, for example, right? So it's quite remarkable that, she had to actually ask me that sentence, and it was a throwaway sentence. It was not something like she didn't stand on a podium, she didn't have a mic, there was no audience. She just asked me this, but that sentence stuck with me. And I think the book was somewhat born out of that. And I think if I have to move away from that, it is also about women farmers themselves, right? I mean, our independent and collective idea of who a farmer is typically tends to be male, right? We always think of a man in a dhoti, shirt or shirtless, either driving a tractor when we think of an empowered farmer, right? A wealthy
Mm.
farmer, we think, you know, somebody's coming on a tractor. Otherwise, it's somebody behind a plow. And then there's this
Right.
whole romanticization of agriculture, right? So one of the
Mm.
things she also asked me is like, yes, I mean, she farms tuberose. It's a very fragrant flower. She does not have the time to stop and smell the flowers, right? So it's like her life is it's the kind of ideal that I would want, right? A life in the middle of the fields, like, you know, space for the dogs, the cows, the goats. But she does not have the time to sit down and enjoy any of it.
Anything.
It's just work, 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 work. So how do we bring farmers like her? Women farmer is actually, you know, reductive, because we are trying to qualify the work that they do as a woman. That's not right, right?
Yeah,
so I think
true.
so I think, you know, the book gave me an opportunity, Shobha, and I think the way, you know, we all edited it collectively also, you know, to kind of talk about the fact that, you know, woman farmer is not an exception. She's the rule, right? And single women farmers, for multiple reasons, whether the husband has taken the life, which happens in many cases, whether they have migrated to a different city, you know, to a city especially. And, you know, the woman is left behind looking after the farm, looking after the children, being this one-man army, right? So what are we talking? I mean, why are we not talking enough about people like her, right? So this book was very nice because it does put, you know, a little bit of her story into children's lives and maybe make them think about, you know, why people like her are not spoken about enough, or why women, you know, we don't think about women and farmers in the same breath.
Yeah, but tell me this, why do you think books such as these are relevant for our kids today, whether rural or urban? I mean, like Sainath said, I mean, it's not like rural kids in one part of India know about rural kids in another part of India, you know?
Exactly.
So why these books, to me, I feel that they are as relevant to everyone, adults included. But yeah, but why do you think that these stories need to be told and children need to read them?
I think the disconnect, Shubha, as you said, you know, I mean, it's just this disconnect that we hope to, you know, address with this book, whether it is with Pari, with the independent, you know, reporting, any kind of post that, you know, one puts out there. Because I think media has made it very, you know, glamorous to talk about a certain kind of story, a certain kind of celebrity story. For example, I often read about, you know, the celebrity couple's child and that child's nanny, and, you know, where they were walking out of, what they were all wearing, what, you know, breakfast cereal that family is eating. I mean, I'm very happy for them, but I really don't think it's burning information that, you know, the whole world needs to know, or, you know, somebody else's bathroom decor. So we give, you know, we are happy to give, you know, space, whether it's printed, whether it is, you know, what are the, I mean, you know, until the farmers' protest happened, we were not talking about the farmers, right? And even here, there was a whole industry out there trying to discredit the farmers' protest. And there was, you know, there is so much being done saying, listen, it's only, you know, farmers from one part of India who have a problem. So we have all these things. And I think it starts from talking about the 70% of the women, you know, who are in farming. 70% of the work in farming is done by women. And they only own 13% of the farmland, right? So I think we have to put them in the center. We have to turn the spotlight on them and, you know, get others talking. And one way to do it is buy a story like this.
True. Because there's, I think, nothing more powerful than bringing this to light through a story. Because I think children would more easily consume a story than they would a report, a journalistic report.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and, you know, I think the advantage that all of us in Pari had was that we were trained to do a journalistic report. So we hopefully, you know, have been trained to kind of get the details, and you were there to kind of, you know, get us there with the fiction part of it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Thanks, Aparna. We'll move on to, thank you. Stay on.
Absolutely. I'll just mute myself.
Yeah. We'll move on to Vishakha. Now, Vishakha George is a journalist who reports on agrarian distress and labor exploitation for Pari, for People's Archive of Rural India. Vishakha also teaches media ethics and rural journalism to school and college students. Her book for the Pari series is House of Uncommons. In this book, Vishakha gives readers a peek into the lives of the students at Snehgram, an institute for HIV-positive children in Krishnagiri in Karnataka. The story I mean, I learned so many things from House of Uncommons. The story, it's a gripping tale of grief and acceptance and of empathy. Thank you, Vishakha, for being with us today. And you are in Bangalore, yes, Vishakha? Are you in Bangalore?
Goa.
Goa.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, so Vishakha joins us from Goa. Aparna was from Chennai. And just a couple of quick questions to you, Vishakha. Do you think children are open-minded and accommodating, more accommodating than adults when it comes to learning about other people and taboo topics? Do you think?
Yeah. I might speak in cliches for a little bit, so bear with me. But I don't think that anyone is born with prejudices or biases, right? These are things you pick up unconsciously depending on the environments that you're in. And as you go along, they're either strengthened and hardwired. And if there is a turning point in your life where you realize, my God, I've been thinking about things the wrong way, it takes a concerted effort to actually break away from the shackles of, all of these stereotypes that we have in our head, conditioning. So I think when we use the word like taboo topics and whatnot, it's adult constructs, right? Because criminalization of homosexuality, stigmatization of people who live with HIV and AIDS, these are things that adults do. But if you strip away the value judgment from all of this, then you're actually talking about events in our world that children can be acquainted with. If you strip away value judgment, and if you have empathy and you tell these stories in a manner that isn't for shock and awe, children will learn about various things that happen in this world. Children will grow up to be more curious. Children will grow up to be more empathetic. They won't be bullies. They won't treat people cruelly. So I definitely think that, yes, children are far more open-minded and far more empathetic than us adults are. It is the advantage of being a kid.
But Vishakha, the books are actually bought by adults. I mean, the people who buy the books, at least from us, the Pari books, during the pandemic have all been adults, because children are, they don't have access to payment gateways and things like that, which was also very wonderful for us and eye-opening, because there is this whole bunch of grown-up people there who want their children to read different books and all kinds of issues, not just they have been conditioned to view in a certain way. Yeah. So do you think do you think books like these, like House of Uncommons, for instance, can be a sort of a catalyst in bringing to light or in discussing openly issues like HIV?
Yeah. So I think the advantage of fiction, especially when it comes to dealing with tricky topics, is it can speak about uncomfortable truths. It will do a lot of the heavy lifting for the parents, right?
Yeah.
And
sorry to interrupt. Yeah, tell me that quote which I read, which you read elsewhere about fiction.
Do you want the exact quote? Was it?
No,
I think it's something.
You can paraphrase.
I paraphrased it. I butchered it in several forms, but it was this journalist who said that fiction can speak of uncomfortable truth. So something to the effect of society isn't able to do that with their kids, but fiction will do the job for it. I'll send you the actual quote. I butchered it marvelously. Anyway, but if you give a kid a book, you get the gist, right? If you give a kid a book about a story that deals with a topic that you are perhaps uncomfortable to talk about, the characters in that book, the narration in that book will weave the story in such a way that, if it's engaging enough, kids are going to be invested in their journey, their experiences, their struggles. It happens when you watch movies. It happens when you watch serials. It takes you on an adventure that you can't physically be on, but you're mentally there. So I think fiction or books does some of the heavy lifting, but it would be a disservice to your child's growth if, as an interested parent or teacher, you're not following up that reading experience with a conversation, right? So a part of the work has been done. Follow up with a conversation, like enrich their mind with perspective, ask kids questions. So in that way, I think, books like this are a catalyst for kids to learn about the difficult things of the world.
Yeah. I mean, I think we ourselves got our education on so many things through books, through fiction, actually, things that we were
Yeah.
unfamiliar with. And even I think that it is, I mean, one doesn't have to wait to be an adult to be introduced to topics that are relevant to children today. Why
Exactly.
wait? Yeah. Um, Thanks, Vishakha. We will move
Thanks,
on
Shobha. Sure.
we will move on to Subuhi before we come back to all of you again. Subuhi has worked as a journalist and editor in Mumbai, and most recently with the People's Archive of Rural India. Her first foray into children's writing was a picture book called Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus, Traveling Through Time. I have to buy that book, Subhuti. Haven't gotten around to doing that yet.
No
No
worries.
Ticket, No Ticket Will Travel is her second book for children. Now, I ought not to say this with all the other authors present here, but No Ticket Will Travel is really my favorite book of the five in the series, because there's something so terribly poignant about these six stories, about these journeys. And every time I read it, I have to pause and take a breath, and then it sometimes I struggle with finishing a story because it just moves me so much. So it is, in that sense, it's my favorite story because it's viscerally moves me. While the other stories are beautiful and you see the struggles of the people, and there's an arc of a story that happens. With this, that every story in itself is, I think, can be novelized, you know. So, to give all of you listeners what No Ticket Will Travel is about, it's six short stories on migrant laborers who travel in search of work from Andhra Pradesh to Kochi, determined to make a living. And they struggle against all odds and uncertainties on the way. And here you will meet a poet, you will meet a person who makes dolls, and these are all stories of survival and belonging. And Subuhi, you're based in Mumbai, are you?
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So, welcome to our roundtable of Beyond Boundaries. And when you cover these kinds of stories, and here there are six people, do you feel like a sense of despair, or are you left with any hope at all when you see these kinds of different stories?
To be honest, these stories were, of course, reported by Rahul M, who
Mhm.
actually, let me rephrase that. He didn't report these stories, but in particular, he reported the phenomenon, which was
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
out migration from rural areas of Anantapur district in
Mhm.
Andhra Pradesh to cities like Kochi,
Kochi.
sometimes Bengaluru, Hyderabad. But of course, in his story, the focus was Kochi. So, my job really, and sorry, before I say that, one of the stories, though, the first story of Aruna,
Mhm.
is based on another story by him as well, about a girl, a young Dalit girl, 10-year-old, who
Mhm.
lives in a village called Amadgur.
Mhm.
So, that was his work. My work was to, read these stories and think of, okay, how can they be narrativized? How
Mhm.
can we tell them in a way for children that does not perhaps overwhelm them, but engages them simultaneously? The despair, I mean, Shobha, the despair, I feel despair to this day just from
Mhm.
the act of reading. Yeah. So the question is, how does one move from that to, as you rightly pointed out, hope?
Mhm.
And when I was actually writing it, I thought that maybe perhaps I was myself despairing and fearful,
Mhm.
that despair would come across. But readers have actually all told me that despite the despair, they see some ray of hope, in
Mhm.
all of the different stories. So for me, of course, that's hugely reassuring.
Mhm.
But yeah, it is a huge challenge. How do you how do you work with the story of somebody who really is facing a multiple deprivations, yeah,
Mm,
but yet humanize that person, show that person in his or her completeness, you
mm,
know,
mm,
and show that person as someone who's not sort of cowed down by the deprivation, by the systemic, discrimination.
mm,
So
mm,
that for me, yeah, it was the challenge, and I guess I picked on small things,
mm,
like I would, so there's a construction laborer, she has this hobby. Well, it's not a hobby, it's really an income generating activity, but she likes to work with fabric. So she
mm.
makes these dolls at
Dolls.
home after she comes back from work,
Mm,
and she also involves her son, who
mm,
comes back from school too. Now the background of that is that Appa, that
mm,
boy's father,
mm.
actually doesn't come home until much later, until they've fallen asleep, and
Yeah.
reasons for that could be drunkenness. I
Mm,
mean, which is not to stigmatize or necessarily say
mm.
all construction laborers are doing that, but that is also a phenomenon that
Right.
I was aware of. But so then how does the mother engage the child,
Mm,
how
mm,
does the mother not allow the child to feel the absence of the father?
mm,
know? And so she
mm.
involves him in this activity of sort of needlework, of stitching.
Right.
So yeah, I try to find little things, that would kind of help us
Mm.
look at them as not just migrants, as complete multidimensional human beings with desires, with hopes, with dreams.
But do you think that these issues, um, even though different, could somehow parallelly resonate even with migrant children or urban kids? Because uh, there are similar issues. I mean, not the same,
Mm.
but where the child feels abandoned or left out, or is waiting for a parent to return home, or a parent who's far away or gone somewhere, right? So,
Yeah, you're saying, will kids relate to something like this? Yeah.
yes.
I mean, I just finished reading Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, actually. I'm a
First
little bit
book.
late. Yeah, I'm a little bit late, I have to say, but I finally got there. Now, the thing about it, which is very interesting, is that Harry Potter himself, feels the loss of his, well, he misses his parents.
Mrs. his parent.
Right. So in a way, I was thinking that perhaps some of these themes can be seen as universal, in this,
Right.
and that would hopefully enable readers, adults or children, make the connect. So another theme, of course, is that of Aruna, who has these slippers, they're hand me downs, that somebody
Yeah.
gives her mother, who's a
Mm,
construction laborer in Kochi, at her place of work.
mm.
And she doesn't care whether they're secondhand or not. She just likes them and needs them because it's really hot in Ahmednagar, and the ground is scorching, and she
So,
says, so she holds on to them. And of course they also remind her of Amma, when she's away
right.
working in the city. Now, when she loses that one slipper on her way to see her Amma in Kochi from rural Andhra Pradesh, I mean, that's, and just that feeling of loss, I mean,
Yes.
I think perhaps that's also me, in many ways,
That's all of us. That's all of
right?
us, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's nice to hear you also say that, because that was the hope, that maybe this language of emotion, not just necessarily of loss, but also of joy, of of going off on some fantastical magical journey, like we do in one of the stories, with Anjanamma,
Mm, mm.
and that was not inspired by Harry Potter, the fantastical thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we love fantasy because we also want to go off, on
Yes.
and on into some other parallel
Some other world.
universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, the hope is that these things will enable people to identify with the characters. I mean, it may be difficult, I think, for urban kids. You are right, Shobha.
Mm, mm,
Which is why I think what you're doing right now is actually so essential. And
mm,
big thanks to Karadi and also all the educators and teachers here, because
mm,
this is really the first step
mm,
towards helping kids in sort of urban areas develop relationships of empathy, not
mm,
just with rural kids out there, but also
mm.
the kids of migrants in their own cities.
Right.
the kids of the people who come to work in their homes,
Absolutely.
the kids of the people who drive their cars, you know. So this is, I mean, I think this initiative is wonderful. Thank you. And
Thank you for those lovely stories, set of stories, and for joining us from Mumbai.
thank you so much, Shobha.
Yeah, Preeti, you're next. Preeti, David, where are you? She is in. She did tell me where she was. Preeti, where
I'm
are
in
you?
Allahabad.
You're in Allahabad with a stomach bug. Oh, I hope you're feeling better. Yeah. So Preeti is the education editor and a rural reporter at Pari. She interacts with school and college students to encourage them to explore, engage, and write on rural issues. She has been a business journalist, a book editor, and a high school teacher. She treks regularly in the Himalayas, does yoga, and follows classical dance. In Coming Home, Preeti, for us, in Coming Home, which is the title of the book in the Pari series, which she has authored, Preeti relates the story of a group of resilient children from Sitlingi Valley, which is in Dharmapuri, who, when forced to drop out, decide to start their own school and help create jobs in their valley. Preeti, are you in Bangalore? Are you joining us from? Oh, now you're in Allahabad.
Yeah,
right?
no.
That was a senior moment. Yeah. So, Preeti, my question to you is, see, all of these books, all the 5 books, of course, we didn't, I don't know if Niveda is here with us, the 5th author who wrote A Big Splash. Niveda wrote the book as an intern at Karadi and is not a part of the Pari group of writers. Preeti, do you think that all these 5 books have a place in today's, what does one say, a reading material for children, like children who will go and pick these books out, and in our education system itself?
Okay, thank you, Shobha, and thank you for having me. So I thought about this when the books were published as to, are these going to be just little novellas which, children who are graduating from short stories will move into? Or is there going to be something, bigger about it? I didn't think about it before I wrote Coming Home. But in Pari, we've been meeting lots of children in schools as well as colleges and so on. And we feel very strongly that migration is that one important process which happens around us, which can actually, connect people in rural and urban India, connect, like it's a little line which goes back. So when we, for example, gave projects to standard 11 and said, you have a 20-mark project, you have to interview a migrant, the kind of feedback that we got was astonishing. It was just astonishing, because Vishakha and I were reading things like students saying, I never knew a man could travel, 2,000 kilometers just to earn an extra 5,000. Many students came back to us and said, this migration project has really been an eye-opener. It's really touched them. They see people differently now. So I always felt that, there is a lot of scope in our education system to kind of shake it a little bit. For example, in English, I've taught English at high school and higher secondary and so on. And I know that we generally tend to, in standard 8, we have short stories and poems. And then in standard 9 and 10, we move into Shakespeare or, and again, short stories and poems and so on. And we do have a single novel, like say To Sir with Love, which many teachers don't take on because of various reasons. But I think that these books are actually pitched perfectly over there. They are very well pitched to take you from the short story to the short novel for young people. One is because, and I don't say this for my novel alone, I think all of them are really good stories. They're told like really interesting. Storytelling is at the heart of it. But I feel that they allow students and teachers to explore other issues beyond just language and vowels and etc., conjunctions and so on. They actually move you out of your comfort zone. And as Vishakha mentioned earlier, they give you a start to, set the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's a taboo topic, or it's even So one of the things in PARI education that we do a lot about is we try and talk about processes. So currently, I feel, not currently, I mean, I'm just saying, one of the biggest processes in India today is inequality, right? We have such terrible inequality in our country. We have 30% of the population which is poverty, under the poverty line, and then we have all these dollar billionaires, right? We also have migration. We have 250 million people at any point of time migrating around India. Why don't we have more stories about this? Why are we not addressing this in our teaching to our students? Why are we shielding them from this? Today, what has happened with the everyone having their own phone and their own computer, it's all turned inward. I think it's time now to build, as Subhuhi said, that empathy factor. Get out of yourself, ask questions. One young student, 13-year-old, told us once, how can I ask my driver these questions? How can I ask my cook where she came from and did she leave farming and she came here to cook in my house? So we said, why not? You ask her for a glass of water. Why can't you ask her where was your home? And it's in these small learnings of asking people these kind of questions about their lives that you are able to bridge the link, or whatever, to make the link, to step into somebody else's shoes, as Harpali said, to actually feel, to build empathy. So I very strongly feel that today, in today's schooling and education system, we're so fixated on marks and exams and so on that we have forgotten that the purpose of education is to relate to society around us with empathy and to learn compassion. So I think that these books are, yes, hopefully, can be placed over there.
Have you used Coming Home part of your Parin education?
No, but we have used all the stories that have been rewritten as fictionalized novels for Karadi. We have used all of them multiple times to teach in schools and colleges. And it's very interesting because when you talk to middle school, for example, if you take Chandra's story, they're very excited about this woman farmer and the bike, and they find it a little funny, and the pictures. Then you take it to the next level, maybe grade 11 and 12. The idea that a woman can be a farmer and that 70% of farming in India is done by women, it's a moment for them.
It's a moment.
And then when you take it to undergraduate and master's level, it opens up the whole world of agriculture. And what does it mean? What does a farmer do? What are their various jobs? How is it interrelated to the rest of the economy in the village? So each one of these stories is an opportunity to open out a new world, to get into something.
I think it's remarkable with these 5 books. I mean, we when we published it, we just said that these were wonderful stories to tell, and of course it builds empathy and kids ought to know. But the more we read it, and with each reading there are other things to discover in this, and that's what sort of amazes me about them, that each time that you come back with asking a new question or wanting to find out something more about an issue. And I don't know, I have to be, sometimes I am overwhelmed by the stories themselves, myself, because I think, and every time I go on the portal, on Pari, and there are hundreds and thousands of such stories, which really ought to be told, and more people ought to be, putting out these stories there, fictionalizing them, making them into books, and getting our kids to read it. Thank you, all of you, for being here. I think open the floor to questions from the audience. If you guys, all of you who have been listening in, if you have questions for any of our 4 authors or us as publishers, could you put it in the chat box, and one of us will curate the questions and put it out for the authors. Daya, can you, or Deepti, if you could take a look at the questions, if there are any questions. Is it possible to have offline access to the video later? We'll try and make that available. Yes. Hi, Shubha, Galaxy A51. Hi. have these school books been used by any schools as part of the curriculum? How did it work? For which grade? This is precisely the reason why we are here today, to offer and showcase these books to all the educators who are gathered here, so that we think it's a great fit for middle graders from classes 6 to 10, 6 to 8, sorry, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah, 6, 7, 8. 9, you think, but as Preeti said, we could just, you could go up to university level with these books. And I think everybody ought to read the book. Could you please send the...
I just want to mention that these books were launched mid-school year. So,
Right.
Which is why they haven't been put in the curriculum yet. And as Shobha mentioned, that is why this meeting is really important, because you all will be setting your curriculum for next year. So we hope that this gets in.
Someone asks, I don't know which of you want to take this question. I was wondering if we could offer the books children who are from tribal and rural areas. They would see themselves in these stories for the first time.
Shobha, before that, someone asked the titles of the books. So I'm just going to quickly show the titles and the books.
All right. Yeah. Are you sharing your screen, Deepti? Yeah.
It's on my video.
Oh, all right.
So there's Nonsense Nandini by Aparna Karthikeyan. There is Big Splash by Naveda Ganesh. There's No Ticket, Will Travel by Subhuhi Javani. And there's House of Uncommons by Vishaka George. And there is Coming Home by Preeti David.
So Sheetal asks, are there any lesson plans designed with proper objectives? That's the second part of this roundtable, and we could we'll discuss that. How do we get children of the current times who are fascinated by Hollywood superheroes and don't show much interest in our own backyard stories? And advice from any of you to bring them into this radar. Anyone wants to take this?
Yeah, I think we've done, I'm going to jump in right here, because this is something that we do all the time. We've been doing it for the last 3 years now. Initially, we thought like you that, students will not be interested in rural issues or rural stories set in places very far away from them. But I think the essence of any story is the storytelling. And we have found that, even the most jaded, rich, entitled children can be really captivated by these pictures and stories. So I don't think that should be a problem at all. And I just want to answer this question about, well, will we share this in rural and tribal areas? Definitely. That is very much a part of what we want. We don't believe that only urban children need to read about rural students. Everybody needs to read about it.
Just to add briefly to what Preeti is saying, one of my hopes for this year, depending on when children are able to go back to school in 2 villages in Western Andhra Pradesh in Anantapur district, which are Amardagur and Mohammadabad, where I'm in touch with the principal. So depending on when they can go back to school, one is hoping after getting a Telugu kind of a translator to go there to visit those schools. And yeah, I mean, whether or not the funding happens or support happens for it, it's one of my plans for this year. So yeah, wish me luck.
Great.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
And of course, sorry, no, incidental.
No, go on, Subhuhi.
No, I was just saying that Aruna, on whose story whose story is based on the real life girl who studies in Amardagur. So I'm hoping to, through the journalist, touch base with her and go to her school. And all the parents of, the kids in that school are migrant laborers. So it will be an interesting exercise in trying to get a sense of what is it like when you see your own life represented, in this manner, or the lives of people you know. Sorry for that longish
No, that was necessary. Someone asks us, are there plans to do similar books in regional language? And I want to tell all of you as authors that we've got interest from a Marathi publisher. We got an interest from Tamil publisher. We've got interest from Hindi publisher to want to do these stories in all these 3 languages. So if there are any publishers out there who are doing regional literature, please feel free to contact us. We are happy to, get these stories in other languages. Yeah. So there's a question for Vishakha. If we have books about difficult subjects like HIV, LGBTQ issues, how can we best discuss this with middle school kids? In your experience, do parents object to these topics being discussed with kids who may not even have had a talk on sex education?
I think that's a great time to start the conversation around sex education. You got a book in your hand, start the conversation. I remember, I mean, how you even introduce these concepts is so critical, because I remember when I was in school, I was about 12 years old. I remember we had a religious figure come in and tell us that sex is straight up bad. Don't engage in it. God will punish you. And it's one thing to have your faith, and it's one thing to believe in stuff, but I don't know if that's what you should be imposing on children from different backgrounds. So if you can find a way to do this, because honestly, the end game of a conversation on sex ed is just so that kids are safe, so that they don't do things that jeopardize their health or get them into any kind of complications that way. So I think there is a way to talk about it. I think there's, I mean, for one, if you want to talk about LGBTQ and all of these aspects that have been no so far, you can just talk about how sexuality isn't a choice, and that it's not just a man and a woman who fall in love in today's world, because we're a far more accepting society. But there are all sorts of combinations, and there are all sorts of identities that people are comfortable with. It's just fact today. It's not something that we need to be ashamed of. You see it all across social media. You see it now being represented in your books and your television screens. So yeah, I mean, let's not think of it as something that we have to. Why should parents be afraid to introduce kids to these concepts? It depends on how you're not showing them pornography, right? You're talking to them about the reality of life, and there's a way to do it. And who better to do it than teachers?
I sometimes think, Vishakha, that probably as adults, we ourselves are not equipped with enough knowledge on the matter to tell our children anything, or talk to the kids about things. I mean, and we've...
you have to talk about safe sex. You have to talk about how the world that we live in today isn't only about heterosexual relationships, that people are free to love anybody, and it isn't a choice, because if it were a choice, people would often take the easier choice. But there is a lot that comes with, coming out and saying, I am gay, or this is the identity that I want to take on. So I guess we need to strip down these stereotypes and say that none of this is wrong, none of this is bad, none of this is evil. It's just the progression of society.
Right.
Yeah.
Shobha, if I can just jump.
Of course.
Please.
Yes. Tell
Sorry,
me. Go on.
I butted in. Sorry.
No, go for it.
So there was a question which said, were you at any time influenced by Nargis Dutt in Mother India, another single-parent woman farmer? If so, was a shift from that melodramatic pity of Mother India to the near emotionless masculinity of no-nonsense memory and conscious effort on your part? The short answer for that is I've never watched Mother India, so I don't know. So I lived in Chennai all my life when I was growing up, and it didn't come in my radar. So no.
Thank you. The question just disappeared, so I couldn't pose it to you. I'm glad you caught it, Aparna. Yeah, I'm glad you caught it. Yeah.
Sure, Shobha,
Yes, Subhuhi.
one question from Jairadha Shankar
Right.
says, this appears to be a survey approach to stories born out of real-world observations. Would this tax the intellectual energy of the children, being expository instead of exploratory? So I thought I would just sort of briefly respond to that, and I think we can get everybody else to also chip in. The idea, Jairadha, was not so much to be expository instead of exploratory. It was rather to be, well, quite exploratory in the sense that one tried to inhabit the interiority of the characters, to understand the way they saw their own lives, the way they, they dealt with certain issues, how, which emotions came up. So I don't know, I may disagree with you here in terms of the approach being survey-like, because really the idea was quite the contrary. I mean, survey is what we see in a a lot of reportage, in studies, in research reports. But here it was to quite literally get to the heart of the experiences. And I want to invite everybody else also to respond to that.
I completely agree with you, Subhi. To add to that.
I think that maybe we've spoken on the books, the kind of what we've just told you it may appear like it's expository, but I think if you actually read the story, you will find that it is exploratory. So I would really request the person to actually read it and then do let us know if you still think it is not exploratory. Yeah.
Thank you, she says. Yeah. So if there aren't any more questions, I mean, you could still leave your questions or write to us, and we could pass them on to the authors. What we did, just like what all of you are asking, is that we discovered that schools were taking the books and using them to either discuss or to research or to read about or write or to explore other related matters. And we definitely thought that the books would make a super duper fit in the school curriculum. Even though we are calling this Beyond Boundaries curriculum, that by putting it within the curriculum or putting it within the structure of a school framework, that we get to explore it or break it, go beyond the boundaries of just taking a test or questions and answers, but allows you to explore more and more other subjects are related. Not really seen any other collection or set of books or a series of books that collectively do this one thing. And so what we did in team is that we just took one book and one chapter of one book, not chapter, we took one theme from one book, which is Coming Home, and we took the issue of migration from that, and we created a lesson plan on it. And I'm just going to turn it over to Daya so that Daya could kind of share this presentation with you. And later, she will also give you information on, in case you want to have this kind of a curriculum or have this set of books with lesson plans. How does one go about it? Daya, and thank you guys, all of you authors. Really, really, really grateful for every time saying yes to all the times that we've asked you to attend a webinar or go speak at a school, or saying yes, always saying yes. Thank you very, very, very much. Yeah, stay around. I mean, if you don't have anything else important to do, you're welcome to stay around and see what we have done with one of the books. Yeah, Daya?
Yeah. Thanks, Shobha. And I think a couple of my colleagues are here. Deepti is here, who also worked on the curriculum. So Deepti, please feel free to step in at any point if you want to. I'll be doing an introduction to the curriculum and also talking about what our vision is for these books. So I'm just going to share my screen. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Okay, so Beyond Boundaries is an inquiry-based curriculum, and we are very keen not to define it or box it into one particular subject. Actually, that wouldn't even be possible. It would be doing a disservice to these books, and I'll get into why that would be the case in a minute. So these are the books themselves. 4 of these were just talked about by the authors. I think the only one that wasn't covered was A Big Splash. It was written by Niveda Ganesh, who, I mean, the story is based on a Pari article called From Cotton Fields to the Paralympics. But, sorry. Can you hear me? Okay, so the article was called From Cotton Fields to the Paralympics. But the person who wrote it actually interned with us at Karadidale. She didn't work for Pari. I think Shobha had mentioned that as well. So we're going to be dividing these books amongst classes 6, 7, 8, and 9. And as you can see on the PPT, Coming Home is for class 6 and 7. A Big Splash is for class 6. No Nonsense Nandini for class 7 and 8. No Ticket Will Travel for class 8 and 9. And House of Uncommons for class 9. So why did we publish these books in the first place? So as a publishing house, our agenda has always been about bringing out diverse books for children that represent Indian culture. And a lot of Indian literature for children covers the urban experience, but it's important to acknowledge that this covers a very tiny percentage of Indian culture. Indian culture is vast and multicultural. And we felt that there was a gap in the market for books like these for children, and the Pari series was an attempt to fill that gap.
Economics. How prepared are they, ma?
Could everyone please mute themselves? Thanks. So the major themes in these books are very relevant to current events and what we're hearing about on the news. For instance, farming and migration. Subhi spoke about her book, No Ticket Will Travel. And that book has 6 stories, each one about a migrant who's traveled in search of a living and why they've migrated and what their aspirations and dreams are, what their passions are. And these stories put a face or put a soul to the dry statistics that we hear about on the news. And it makes it all the more heartbreaking, actually. So for a child, this would be a great way to build empathy, because it's hard to see it as us and them when you see so much of yourself in them in these stories. So the next point was covered pretty comprehensively by the authors. What makes this series unique is that they're all based on the lives of real people, written by people who have personal relationships with the subjects of these stories. And there's such a wealth of indigenous knowledge that people living in urban India don't know about. So even while editing these stories, there's so much that I learned in the process. So for instance, in No Nonsense Nandini, because Nandini plucks them at night. And in Coming Home, it tells you what kind of crop requires what kind of a lot of water for paddy. And as you can see, every single book covers an enormous range of themes. And which is why I said earlier that it would be a disservice to box them into one subject. So they open the door to discussion on multiple topics. So even if you take Coming Home, it covers things like migration, farming, education, indigenous art, job opportunities, sustainability, community, which is why we realized that this is a fantastic opportunity to make a very unique curriculum. About the curriculum itself, which we're calling Beyond Boundaries, the National Education Policy 2020, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, it had a focus on critical thinking and problem solving, but more importantly, it looks to develop social awareness and empathy in children. And in order for this to happen, children need to be exposed to literature. They need to be exposed to books that allow for this. They need to be able to read about the experiences of someone living in rural Tamil Nadu or in rural Andhra Pradesh. And this, of course, allows for discussions in the classroom on current events, on civics, geography, disability, inclusivity. And the primary objective here is to build empathy, awareness, and critical. And all of the lesson plans that we are designing, they've all been specifically designed to achieve this. I'll be showing you a sample lesson plan in a minute. And of course, it encourages holistic, inquiry-based and discovery-based learning. So this is the curriculum itself. It has 4 core fields: read, research, discuss, and write. There will be extra reading material suggested for both teachers and students. It will encourage field work. There will be a variety of activities like script writing, article writing, art and craft. Yeah, like I mentioned, there will be resource material for both teachers and for students. And the lesson plan for each book, this will cover 8 sessions, and each session will cover a major theme from the book. So I'll show you an example in a minute in which we've taken the theme of migration and we've designed an entire lesson plan around it. So we want to keep this flexible. Ultimately, it will be for the teacher to decide how many periods she spends on one lesson plan, but we suggest 3 periods per lesson plan, and that would be 24 periods for one book. So this is a sample lesson plan. I've broken it up into parts just for the sake of the PowerPoint presentation. So in order to cover these, the children and the teacher will have need to have read the book in advance. So for this lesson plan, the key concept that we've chosen is migration. This is part 1, read, and we've divided it into teachers and students. Of course, none of this is compulsory. We have books, we have articles, we have videos, all of these will be hyperlinked. Part 2 would be research. So the first point, interview a construction worker about migration. So I've given an example in the next slide, which I'll show you in a second. So this would be something that a child could do by themselves outside of school hours, or it could be part of a field trip that you do in school, within school time itself. So there's an enormous range of questions that you could ask. If you're going to interview a construction worker, the child could ask where they're originally from, why did they migrate, from where did they migrate, did they migrate by themselves, did you face a language issue, why did you choose to work in construction. So this is just an example template that we've come up with. Of course, the children should be encouraged to come up with their own. The next part would be discuss, and this is for classroom discussion. Who do you think is a migrant? What would happen if people don't migrate? I mean, it's a great way to have debates in classes, migration a necessity or a hindrance to the country. And the next part is write. So the first point, write an article about your interview with a migrant worker. I don't know how it is right now, but when I was in school, I don't think I was ever trained to write an article, or I wasn't taught how to do journalistic writing. And this is a fantastic opportunity for children to learn how to do that kind of writing. This is just an example of what would be in the teacher repository. So this is a note that was written by Preeti, and it sets the context to the book Coming Home. The student pack, each class will have 2 books, of course, like I had mentioned earlier. So each student pack would come with 2 books that are offered at a discounted rate. Each book retails for ₹200. So 2 books together would be 400, but we're offering them at ₹340 per child. So class 6 has Coming Home and A Big Splash. Class 7, Coming Home, No Nonsense Nandini. Class 8, No Nonsense Nandini, No Ticket Will Travel. And Class 9, No Ticket Will Travel in House of Uncommons. And the teacher repository is there as an add-on. There is no cost for it. The cost will only be for the student pack. So for every grade, the teacher will be offered a complimentary copy of the book that's relevant to whichever grade they're teaching, the note from the author that I just showed, additional recommended reading, and 16 lesson plans. That's it. If there are any questions, could you please put them in the chat?
Daya, do you want to answer that?
So Devnath is asking, are these materials available as online materials for use by an online school? So the student pack, the way we'd envision it, would have the physical books, but the teacher repository will be entirely online. There's no physical component there. It would be sent as a PDF with clickable links. So, I mean, that would certainly be, I mean, that would work for online classes, definitely. But we haven't developed the books as ebooks as yet. So they would be physical books.
Can I say something? May I take the next question?
Preeti, was that you?
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah. Please
Yeah, go ahead.
Somebody's asked about the age group that has been
Right.
recommended. Yeah, so I just want to say that, you know, reading books levels are not set in stone. I mean, I've organized libraries and all, and so I think it completely depends upon the level of the school, the level that you as a teacher feel that your students are ready for. I think any one of these books can be read across 3-4 years. So yeah, that's my 2 bits.
Yeah. And Rajni, to answer your question, see, this is just a very loose, what do you call, a showcasing of what can be done with the books. Now, whether you choose to use all 5 books in one class or just one per class, or whether to use the books for art curriculum or whether for your model UN, whichever way, there is no, we are not, it's all holds unbarred only, you could do whatever you want with the books. But we also find that teacher competencies in schools vary. And for some schools, many schools, not some, many schools like for the books to be supplied with a certain, at least lesson plan, which they can follow. And this is just a reflection of that. I mean, it's one doesn't have to do it. You could create your own, completely your own curriculum as well. But it would be useful for the children to have their own books rather than buy one set of books for the library and then
Sudarshana has asked, do some lesson plans have other elements of expression, like artistic elements like drama, music, art, photography, etc., for students to really explore these stories and themes across different mediums? Yes, absolutely. The lesson plan that we showed was just a sample. It was just one. So all of these would be included. We were thinking of having art is something that is there in 2 or 3 of the books. Have learning about Nambadi art, learning about how to create that kind of art themselves. So yes, having other elements of expression.
In fact, we have Abhishek, who's with us, who will talk to us after this Q&A session, where he's a drama teacher and he's converted one of the stories into a script to be used with his students. And we will invite him to share of his experience also in a bit. Thanks, Sudarshana.
think we missed a question. Beena has said that these stories have been humanized beautifully. Therefore, some of the activities could bring in the emotional facets of the stories too. Friendships, parent-child relationships have been addressed with feeling and maturity and should not be given the short shrift. I agree, and these lesson plans are definitely a work in progress. And based on
Absolutely.
feedback and from the students, it will definitely be.
That's very true. That's very true, Deepti. That yeah, these lesson plans are work in progress, and I think for all the number of teachers who are here, you'll come up with as many number of lesson plans. This is just a little showcasing of what we put together here. Mm. Anyone else? Daya, would you like to invite, see, for any of the schools or any of the teachers who are interested in the books and for the lesson plans, just write to us, because I'm sure we can all also create something even together, towards this. So it could be a place where people just put in their ideas and more curriculum is built or more ideas are shared. This is not like I designed this particular curriculum and therefore it's my IP or something like that. It's no such thing. It's if these books impact you and if they impact your students, let's put all our ideas together and share it with more people, that who would benefit from this. So in light of that, just request, could we, great if we could have books for sciences too. One thing at a time, Rajni. So what I would suggest then is to invite Abhishek there to share what he has done with the books and his students. Yeah.
So like Shobha was just saying, we have Abhishek Somanchi with us, and he has used the Pari books and worked with students. So we'd like to invite him to share his.
Hi, good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I think most of the experiences that I want to share is already been covered. I think there was a huge detail that everybody has given, initially the authors. So I'll just quickly tell about the process. This process was more personal than it became the part of the students. I think during the lockdown, the whole concept of migration has deeply moved me, and then I wanted to bring these two grade 7. I'm a class teacher of grade 7 at some point of time. But then whatever content that I have seen available on internet or on newspapers, I found that somewhere I need to bring a little bit of fiction in these realities. I think one of the authors has rightly mentioned that, some quote she has mentioned that it's easier with a fiction to understand the truth. And I think hence my search of finding a more age appropriate text has started. And then during one of my research, one of my friends said that there is a whole set of Pari books which you can go through. And then we took this one book called No Ticket Will Travel. And then that book then we started reading that book and we started doing a lot of discussions around it. And some of the questions that I think some of the curriculum you have also shared. So we kind of started with a lot of discussions with students, and then some point of time, one of the things that I've tried to do was I taking a step back from this whole discussion and making them the owner of the texts, and hence ask them if you can also try to convert few of these stories into scripts. And then every time if there is a character and there are follow-up questions on that character. So we are working with primarily 3 stories. One is Balu, Sadia, and Aruna. And then, first, when we started working on these books, one of the first classes, I think most of my students said, Anna, there is nothing that we can do out of these books in drama. There's no conflict. And that's wherein the discussion started with students. What does it mean to be having a conflict? And then slowly it become more of a discussion and forming into a script where we are still, it is a work in progress. We're still working on these stories, understanding in a more detail. So that was my whole experience to work with students right now. So we have converted all these 3 stories into scripts. And now we are at a point we are trying and understanding some of these characters. Say, for example, if you want to understand the life of Sadia, so one of the prompts that we have done in the class was, if you get a chance to interview Sadia, what do you want to ask Sadia? And then there are, of course, interviews that they have written and so forth. Then they have understanding the text. So this was a little bit of work that we have done. We have converted all these stories, 3 stories, into scripts. I have my students here with me. I think they can share their experience much better than what I've done with them. So if Avyuk, are you here?
Yeah.
Avyuk, Chani, Roseanne, if you can just take it up. If you can take it up from here and just share our work. Go ahead.
Imagine that you live in this very small village with just your grandmother, and there are these tiny little things that you wish for, and you know that you deserve it, but then you don't actually get them. The feeling that creeps up on you is not jealousy. The feeling is the feeling of being a victim of injustice, a victim of inequality. Hello everyone, I'm Chandani from Grade 7 Explorer, Yellow Train. So moving on, we students of the Yellow Train Grade 7 Explorers were split into groups, and we decided to choose stories from the book called No Ticket Will Travel. So the story I have been working on with my classmates was Aruna, and we're still working on it, but then I'm here to share my experience on it. So my experience of being part of it was really amazing, but it also had some of its ups and downs. So some of the ups and downs I had while participating in this experience was that while we read the story first, we thought that the story was really bland as it didn't have a very good plot, and we thought it didn't have much scope as a play. But then eventually when we started to read it and get connected with the story, we realized that we couldn't let go of the story. And second was that the story, it was in a story format. So we had to convert it into a drama script format. So we took up the job of converting it into a script to do it as a play. But when we read the story again and again, we also noticed a few patterns. Like we noticed that Aruna's life is the exact opposite of our own lives. Like, for example, she doesn't get everything she needs, but we get anything we want in this world. And I didn't think that was fair because she wasn't treated fairly, and that was the feeling that she gets, but she was actually fine with it and she didn't even notice it. She's living a life that none of us could ever dare to imagine, and that was really brave of her. And this story made me wonder that that all biographies are written about famous people, but we have never wondered what a life of a small girl would be this hard. So with this thought, I would like to say thank you for all those who heard me out today. And I have a few questions for the author of the story. So my first question is, how long did this take you to write the book?
Should I answer the questions now, Shobha? Okay. Hi, Chandni. Thank you.
Yes, Subhuhi.
Okay, thanks for reading the story so many times. I hope it didn't bore you too much. I'm glad that you told me that you felt it didn't really have enough drama for as a script. That's something I'll also keep in mind. Great, good feedback. Now you have to remind me of your question again, because I just became a bit emotional hearing about your experience. So will you just repeat your question if you don't mind, Chandni?
Yes, sure. How long did it take for you to write this book?
Oh, Well, I think I thought about it for a good 3 months, and then I took about 3 months to write it. Yeah, so 6 months total.
What is one feedback that you would give for a person who wants to become an author like you?
Oh, I think that's a tough one. Why don't, I mean, I can get into all of that, but I want you instead of, instead of thinking of me as the author and you as the reader, I want to turn things around a little bit. Also, because sometimes authors are put on this kind of, pedestal and thought of as like great, but actually we're exactly like you. And I wanted to suggest an idea both for you and your teacher, Mr. Suryavanshi, which is that while you're doing the script, yeah, perhaps you could even move away from Aruna's story. And if you wanted, you could actually put in another story of another person, somebody in your class, somebody you've spoken to who is, around you. Maybe that person is an urban person like you, but or the person could have come from a village with father or mother, like a driver's son or daughter, or domestic help son or daughter. So what I wanted to say to you, Chandni, is that I would encourage you and your classmates to take these stories and make them your own, and give them whatever ending you want, turn them around completely, make it your own, give it your own narrative, tear it apart completely and start again, whatever you want to do. Any questions about the topics though, Chandni? Sorry to have
No.
rejected your question. Okay.
And my last question would be, why did you choose the name No Ticket Will Travel for the book? Like there were more options, so why that name?
See, the thing is, I took a little bit of a shortcut there. So the original story was also called No Ticket Would Travel. And in a way, it highlights how people who actually don't have a lot of money, but have to go to urban areas to look for work because there isn't work in their villages, yeah, is that they often have to take trains without tickets, yeah, because they don't actually even have the money to be able to buy the ticket to take the train to go to the place where they will get the job with which they will earn money for one day, and that one day's money is just enough for food for that day and to spend the night in a rented room for that day. So sometimes, some people don't have money, they don't have savings, it's a really hard life. And so I think it highlighted that for me and for the original author of the article.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chandni.
Uh, Chandni, that was so beautifully spoken. Thank you very, very much. You have so many comments in the chat box, everybody congratulating you. I also want to add to the title of the story of the book, No Ticket Will Travel. The phrase, the original phrase is have money will travel. It's a take off from there. And here, these people don't even have tickets, but without ticket, they have to travel because they have to go to another place to make their livelihood. So we're so glad you love the story, and we can't wait to see the play. Thank you.
Thank you. I think two more students to share. Yesterday, I just want to share that yesterday I said, who wants to share? And then all of them said yes. And it was very difficult for me to pick up. And then we just met at some house, Sani's house only. I think we met yesterday. And then we had this, okay, what everybody shares. And we'll say, Anna, we have not been to any roundtable discussions before. Do you want me to present us in certain way, or how is it fine? And we will be a little nervous. And I said, it's okay. I mean, it's fine, whatever way. Thank you, Suboi. I think you have gave what I can say, gave feelings to my thoughts. Thank you so much. I think, as teachers, we often need some text to work with children. That was very appropriate. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Abhishek. This work you've done is so essential, and I would love to continue the conversation with you. It would be really, for me, very enriching. Thank you.
Yeah, I have two more students. I think if I will not give them chance, I need to buy them a pizza after this. So I just wanted to.
Daya, do we have the time for us to have the other two students speak? I mean, we could,
Yeah.
yeah.
We could go on for another five.
Okay. 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 Abhi, if you want to share something.
Hello, everybody. My name is Avir. Firstly, I would like to thank everybody who got involved in making these books. They are a real eye opener about everything that's happening where we don't know.
Can he be spotlighted, please? Whoever's speaking. Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So I would like to thank everybody who got involved in the making of these books, especially the one like No Ticket Will Travel. They're like a real eye opener for everybody in my class. So when I first read the book, I didn't really connect with it because I didn't have any direct experience with it. But as I moved on and kept on rereading and making it a script, it slowly dawned on me what the meaning of the book stood for. So my group took the mini story called Aruna. So we worked on that a lot, and it was a fun experience. But like Chani said, it had a lot of ups and downs. So I would like to give a big thanks to the author, Ms. Shobhi Johani. It's just really nice story, everything there. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Avyuk. Thank you so much for reading.
My pleasure.
Yeah, Roseanne, you can share your words.
Hi everyone, my name is Roseanne, and I've been working on a story called the story Sadhya with a few of my classmates. I've never actually worked on such a realistic play before because all the other plays I've worked on had at least a little bit of fiction in it. It was all fiction. But I am happy we worked on this play because I never actually took time out to think about the people who built our homes and offices and buildings. So yeah, but I had only one question for the writer, which is Jivani, which is like there are a lot of things that are happening in the world you could have written about. How come you chose to write about Sadhya's story over Worker?
Well, you know, it fit in with the larger theme of the book. I wanted to also feature a woman, you know, and a mother as well, and her relationship with her child, particularly because the father is either working very long hours or not able to make it back home in time to spend time with the family. Yeah. So, in a way, that child may be experiencing a bit of neglect. Which many children grow up with. I also wanted Sadia to be a person belonging to a minority community, because I wanted to show that there are people of all shades and colors and races and religions and classes, well, not classes, but castes, certainly, and religious groups who do this work. Does that answer your question? Do you have anything else in mind?
No, that does answer my question.
Okay, thank you for reading, Roseanne.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shobha.
Thank you, Abhishek. That was wonderful. You know, this is what we want to see, either as publishers or writers, for the story to take different forms and develop wings and fly, you know, and that's what you've done. Thank you so much. Daya?
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone who attended for taking the time to attend, school principals, school management, teachers, LitFest directors. I'm sure you all have extremely tight schedules, so we really are grateful that you attended. Before you leave, we would really appreciate if you could participate in the poll that I've put on screen. I'd also like to thank Preeti David, Subhi Jivani, Vishaka George, Aparna Karthikeyan for joining us for this roundtable, and of course for writing these wonderful stories that birthed beyond boundaries. And thank you so much, Abhishek, for sharing your experience with the books, and thank you so much to the children as well who joined us.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening, everyone.
Thank you all, and you know how to reach us.
Yes.